I've interviewed over 200 founders who got well beyond product market fit. But 95% of the founders I meet, and I've met thousands, never get there. They work hard, they're smart, and they still fail. So from these 200 interviews, I pulled out the key 5 steps you need to follow to get to product market fit. I'll walk you through each one of these, and then I'll show you one rule that if you actually follow, guarantees you find product market fit. Every founder I know has read Lean Startup. They know all about the MVP. What they don't know is there's an entire step that comes before it. What I've learned from the 200 founders that I've interviewed is that before startup mode, there's research mode. Take Sanish from Legion. He noticed that every coffee shop and restaurant around him had for hire signs. He knew something was broken and wanted to figure it out. So he hired someone to do 500 interviews of all of these owners and decided to build scheduling software. He got introduced to the founder of Phil's Coffee, who was happy to try it out on one condition. He made Sanish work as a barista for 5 days in his coffee shop before writing code. And that's what Sanish did. Not only that, he then visited all 7 of Phil's Coffee locations every week for a year. A few years later, he's raised over 100 million. And he's not the only one that went this deep in research mode. The founder of Ada, now a $50 million ARR company, became customer service agents before building AI to replace themselves. The founder of Legora, a $5 billion AI startup, housed himself in a law firm office before building the first version of his product. But that's not what most founders do. It's not what I did. When I had my last idea, I thought, wouldn't it be cool if gym owners knew which equipment was used the most so they could buy more of that equipment? I went and I spoke with 15 gym owners. I tried to sell them on the idea, and none of them wanted to be rude to my face, so they told me it was great. And then I built the MVP, I built the team, and when I tried to sell it, no one would buy. The problem is that as a founder, you don't want to give up. So you keep pushing, and maybe you get a sale or two, but you'll never get product market fit that way. You can't push a boulder up a hill. Instead, you have to do what the top 1% of founders do: real research. There's 3 levels to it. The best one is you become the customer yourself. That's what Ada did. That's what Sanish at Legion did. The second one is you embed yourself with the customer like Legora did. At the very least, you have to use option 3, which is you can't do 12 conversations, 20 conversations. You have to do hundreds of real research conversations with your ideal customer. Andy Grove, one of the most famous CEOs in the world, has a book called Only the Paranoid Survive, and it's great advice for big companies. But for tiny companies, the real advice is only the insanely focused survive. Take Pylon. They compete with Intercom, a $10 billion company. Marty, the CEO, told me that him and his 2 co-founders would do 120 LinkedIn messages every single day for 7 days straight. But that's not the crazy part. The crazy part is they literally lived in their office. They had beds there because they didn't do anything that wasn't Pylon related. Now they've raised tens of millions from some of the best VCs in the world. Or take Legora. Max, the founder, told me at one point he did 150 demos in 5 weeks. The crazy part is he was based in the US and the demos were in Europe, so he would have to do them at night. He showed me a picture of his bedroom. It's just a bed and a desk. For 5 weeks, he slept, ate, and demoed. Now, his company is the fastest growing unicorn in YC history. If you don't do this, you'll still invest years into your startup. You just won't make it. You can build $1 million or a $10 million business without going all in. But if you want to build a venture grade business, you need Kobe level mentality because this is a globally competitive sport. If you're not all in, someone else is. The best founders I've met are 100% all in. To be honest, a lot of people ask me, with everything that I know, why don't I start a startup? This is the reason why. You have to be absolutely obsessed to make it. And the test for this is, are you so into your business that the things that you're doing to everyone else look insane? You can't find product market fit on a PowerPoint. At some point, you have to deliver real value to someone. And more often than not, even for the world's biggest companies, it starts with a tiny use case. Take Gusto, a $12 billion company that does $500 million in revenue and serves 500,000 businesses. Their product today is a behemoth. It does payroll, benefits, scheduling, HR management, and way more. But Josh told me that the way they started was exceptionally narrow. The first version of Gusto only served tech companies in California with full-time employees who had never done payroll before. That's how segmented the product was. And it meant that Josh didn't sell to 99.99% of companies in the world. But for that 0.01% that he served, he was the best product that existed. His product was tailor fitted for that specific use case. And that's how you make things happen as a tiny under resourced startup is you find a tiny use case where you can be the best. I've seen firsthand what happens if you don't do this. You'll build a beautiful deck, a nice website, a master plan about how you're going to take over the world. But reality doesn't live in spreadsheets. But when you go out to sell it, no one cares. You have to be in the market to win the market. The top 1% know that the goal is to find product market fit as fast as possible. And to do that, you have to sell a very specific product to a very specific customer set. That's how you get in the market. And then you start learning more about your customers. You learn how they work. You learn all of the subtleties that you need to keep adding to your product and growing the market. Remember, even Amazon started with just books. First, you get in the market, and step by step, you win. There's this quote I love that says that happiness is and must remain a side product and is destroyed and spoiled to the extent to which it is made a goal in itself. You can't will yourself to be happy. You've got to exercise, have a good job, have good relationships, and then you become happy. Growth is the same. Growth is destroyed and spoiled to the extent to which it is made a goal in itself. Growth is a byproduct of delivering real value. Fast growth is all about lowering friction. You reduce onboarding time, you reduce the number of clicks, you reduce time to value. You want to make it easy for your customers, but you're not going after growth, you're going after value, and you have to do the exact opposite. Look at Clio. It's a $5 billion legal tech. When Jack started Clio, he told me that he added friction to the funnel. He made it hard for customers to talk to him. In fact, to talk to him, you had to be willing to go through a 30-minute webinar. The reason for that is Jack only wanted to talk to customers who had a real pain point, and those customers are willing to jump through hoops. Or take Udia, which sells AI to chief legal officers at large enterprises. Omar, the CEO, told me that when he was starting, he would meet CLOs and tell them, I'm only going to work with you if you think there's a way to drive $100 million in value over the next 5 years. If you want an AI that summarizes documents, we're not the ones. He did that to cut out anybody that's a tire kicker, anybody that just wanted to learn more. The only people that stayed are the people who were serious about working with them, the people who really had a pain point, and those are the only customers you should pay attention to. If you don't add friction to the funnel earlier, you'll grow, but you'll grow with the wrong customers. All of a sudden, you're working with many customers that treat your product as a nice to have. They don't really care. They're tire kickers. They tell you to add this feature or that feature, and even if you do, you're still a nice to have product. All of a sudden, you have a product that's okay to a lot of people and not amazing to anyone. And that is how you die. The top 1% of founders start by adding friction. They cut out all the tire kickers. The only customers they work with have true hair on fire problems. Once you work with those customers, it's 10 times easier to add insane value. And if you add insane value, growth will come. I've spoken to thousands of founders, and not once have I ever heard someone tell me, I wish I pivoted later. But many founders I meet wish they'd pivoted sooner. You have to pivot hard and fast. Until product market fit, every single day is day zero. It's a blank slate. Take the founder of Doppel. He grew to $1 million in ARR in the NFT market. He gave that up completely to move to AI deepfakes. He grew 10x in a year. Or the founder of LiveKit, who went from real-time audio to powering ChatGPT's voice mode. He also pivoted his way to becoming a unicorn. Founders love to say they always had the same vision. But if you dig deep into most stories, you're more likely to find a pivot than not. If you don't pivot, you'll do what many founders do. Take a few friends of mine. They had a company that they worked on for over 3 years. They had 12 customers and $3,000 in revenue a month. They worked hard, they pushed hard, they optimized, they tried new sales channels. They did everything. And that is what most founders do. Until one day they got sick of it. They were tired and they cut their revenue to zero. They went back to square one. They did all the research. They pivoted to something completely different. And 2 years after that, they were doing $300,000 a month. It's easy to think that if you just add that one more sales channel, one more customer, one more feature, all of a sudden things are going to work. But that's almost never the case. The top 1% of founders know that pivoting is a core part of finding product market fit. So they do it faster and more often. They don't think of pivoting as a failure. In fact, the opposite is true. Sticking to something that doesn't work is a waste of time and a road to failure. So that's 5 steps. Before startup mode, there's research mode. Only the insanely focused survive. You have to be in the market to win the market. Find value, not growth, and pivot harder, faster. But here's the reality. Even if you follow all those 5 steps to a T, they won't guarantee product market fit. There's only one way to guarantee product market fit. And for that, I need to tell you a bit about my friend Marty. I've known Marty for over 10 years, and I call him the cockroach founder. And I mean that in the best way possible. You see, in 2010, Marty started his first company. 2 years later, it failed. So he started his second company. And 3 years later, after issues with his co founder, he had to leave his own company. Another year after that, he started business number 3. That company was called Blockthrough. But when he launched V1 of the product, it completely failed. So he launched V2 of the product, which also failed, which meant he had to fire his technical co-founder and hire an entirely new CTO. Now, at this point, Marty is 8 years into his founder journey. He hasn't had 1 ounce of success. 8 years ago, it was cool to be a founder. It's not so cool anymore. His friends are lawyers, doctors, they're earning real cash, and Marty has nothing but a big credit card bill. And finally, he launches V3. He's got weeks of runway left. And I get the emails, so I see this firsthand. Month 1, he hits 1,000 in revenue. Month 2, 10,000, 20,000, 40,000, 100,000 in monthly revenue in 5 months. He grew that to $10 million a year and sold that for nearly $100 million. So Marty made his 10 million. I tell you this because 99% of founders won't be the next Steve Jobs. But I believe that 100% of founders can be the next Marty. You see, Marty had to give up along the way. He gave up on features, he gave up on products, he even gave up on companies. The one thing that Marty didn't do is he didn't give up on finding product market fit. If you want a guaranteed way to find product market fit, you have to be like Marty. You have to stay in the game.